Welcome to the Cinema Toast Crunch, where we take a bite out of the films that we saw in our screen studies class. I forgot to say hi. Jeez, there go my manners. I'm Jack Wallace, and as usual, we're joined
goodbye,
by
everybody.
Today we're looking at Dog Day Afternoon, a 1975 film directed by Sidney Lumet and produced by Martin Bregman and Martin Elfman, starring Al Pacino. You'll know it's an Al Pacino film because the color red appears in some form in almost every single shot, even if it doesn't matter.
And there's a lot of guns.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's a lot
And
of
a certain amount of shouting.
That too.
Attica! And a whole lot of sweat.
Attica! Attica! Attica!
I really shifted an octave. I was not ready for that.
I sing, okay? Cut me some slack.
That wasn't an insult on your musical ability.
It was an assault. Start fighting. Okay.
Okay, listen. Guys, what's the prompt for this week again?
Oh, naturalism, formalism, realism, and everything in between.
Ah, nice. Hey, guys, what is any of that?
the 5 elements.
There's 3.
The elements of harmony from My Little Pony.
There's 3.
Okay, that's awesome.
Cut me some slack.
Let me frame this. Let me frame this as more as a plot device to convey the message of what we're going for.
Avatar shit with
No.
the fire, the water.
Okay, let me convey this in a form that more fits the narrative that we're doing here. What does any of that mean?
I don't think we need to explain that to the person who's watching it. That's my personal.
Well, why don't we
Now we can.
let the people understand what it means by going through them as we're discussing the film?
Okay, that works too.
Forced
Okay.
exposition.
I want to start off with realism.
Sure.
I think. Okay, so realism, it's like how we attempt to fabricate reality in an authentic kind of way. It's sort of like how in like a Coca-Cola ad, you would see somebody like drink a Coca-Cola and be like, ah, so refreshing. Nobody says that out loud. It's like kind of like formalism with mixed in with that sort of realism. Like they're trying to like emulate the reality of, oh my gosh, you're drinking Coke on a hot day on the beach. And then bam, that's
almost
realism.
like exaggerated reality.
Theater reality.
And so you see a lot of that in
Very
Dog Day
reality.
Afternoon. Especially like I feel like a mise-en-scène is the main culprit for realism, at least how I see it. Especially, it's like, what do you choose to do with your clothes? What do you choose to do with your hair? What do you choose to do with the props? What do you choose to do with the crowds of people in the back? You see Sal, Sal's the other guy, Sonny. You see like his costume like slowly deconstructing. Like he's like taking off his jacket, his suit jacket. He's unbuttoning each one of his buttons as it goes along, kind of like a Die Hard, but like a sweaty Die Hard. Because like also he's just like caked in sweat the entire movie.
I think I said in my Letterboxd review, this feels like some reverse Die Hard, like where you're instead from Hans Gruber's perspective, you know? I don't
Good
know.
point.
I wish I could.
Except
I
there's
wish
not
I could see
terrorism
through
taking
the
place.
eyes.
But
I wish I could see through the eyes of Alan Rickman.
fucking love Alan.
Oh, Alan Rickman.
Anyways.
I missed that guy.
Yep.
He played Colonel Brandon in Sense and Sensibility, the movie. Continuing. So there's a whole lot of realism in the mise-en-scène, and it just definitely reflects like Dog Day Afternoon. It's a lot longer than an afternoon for me. For me, it felt a lot longer than an afternoon.
Well,
and it's sort
the
of-
actual thing I think was 14 hours.
Yeah.
it
That's
was
crazy.
14-hour hostage crisis. And we
Quite
saw
something.
it definitely felt like 14 hours, but not like in an offensive way, but in a more of, man,
It's
they did
meant
a
to
great
feel like
job.
it's long.
Yeah,
That's kind of the
I
point.
feel like that's also like one of the aspects of it. Like you feel like you're a part of it. Like I feel like I saw it through. Like I saw every single person go
I feel
through
like
it. We just like you feel like you're present in the film, and that's why it might feel long, but at the same time, it just feels like it was necessary for us to like see all of it.
that's an interesting thing that you could go down how you use time in film for distinguishing formalism, naturalism, and realism, because in realism things will often move a lot faster than they actually seem, I feel like.
and like linearly most of the time
Yeah,
because
but in
in
formalism
Dog
you
Day,
can have it be nice and slow and things taking in naturalism or formalism things taking as long as they normally would, or in formalism even longer, to which also goes a lot into editing.
shout out to the editing. And I'm pretty sure going from editing, let's go to camera work. And I think George definitely had something to say about that.
Yeah, I think once you look at the film, when you see the scenes where Sonny is inside of the bank, I think what's interesting is there's a lot of interplay between believability and like camera work and style. As you mentioned, you see a lot of mise-en-scène changes, but on top of that, you feel like it's a believable experience because you always see medium or close-up shots of Sonny, and the camera usually trails him everywhere he goes. And when there's crucial moments of action or exposition happening, it follows him. What I think is interesting is it feels very believable and very realistic, but at the same time, it's formalistic in the sense that you clearly see in real life you wouldn't have a camera trailing the person close up like that, you know? And especially when you see the bank becoming besieged, and you see these long shots outside of the bank of the police officers rolling in on helicopters and cars, like Sonny doesn't see that, right? He doesn't see it with his eyes, but we as the audience see it, and yet it still feels believable. But that's like the interplay between formalism, realism, and naturalism, which I know we haven't discussed all of them yet, but I feel like this is a good segue, I guess. What do you guys think?
Sure. What's no, sorry, you.
So I would argue that mise-en-scène is second for distinguishing the difference between those. Like I think Ruth, you said that was like, for you the big key for identifying realism. Is that correct? So I think
it was
number
definitely
one
like
is
it's
when you
definitely one of the main things that gets me because a lot of the time
yeah no I would
mise-en-scène is
agree.
a choice, not an accident.
Yeah, no.
Mhm.
However, for me, I jump to camera because when you think about the
Mhm.
existence of a camera in that space, like, yeah, people will have costumes, like, will have clothes, but there's not cameras, you know? So I think how you use the camera actually indicates the biggest difference between those because between having camera angles to convey story further or camera angles to be gritty and look more realistic, or
Yeah, right?
because this I think possibly the most you know classicism of and trying to tell story is or the film's ability to try to tell story through camera, that feels like the most one of the most instead of like recreating shot for shot the story of what happened, it feels like the camera is trying to enhance it being a movie. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. Also, remember when we see these cutaway shots to his Sonny's wife
Yeah.
and his kids?
Which one?
Like we're
Okay, never mind.
well, remember
Never
when
mind.
they were
You said
calling?
kids. That makes sense. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
like how you
and
asked
the
me
shots
twice.
cut away.
I had to ask because like you say shot cut to his cut away to his wife. There's two,
It's
So
yeah.
well,
which
sorry, I
that
mean to
was
his
real, which
actually.
I found shocking.
Yeah.
Well,
He
actually,
did.
well, to both. I mean that for both scenarios.
Funny
To
'cause
his
he's
wife that he's
Catholic.
married to and his lover. We get to see two
Again, which
times.
one? No, I'm sorry. I should stop cutting you off.
Okay, you want me to pull up their names?
Wait, no, one's name is
So it
Leon.
begins.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
And Angie.
I searched up so
Yeah, so
that
to
sorry,
with
you
both
go.
of
I need
them,
to
we
stop.
see
I'm muting.
cutaway shots. We get instantly teleported to their perspective at certain points in the film, right?
Mhm.
And even though we recognize that as an event that's happening, and just like in general, we still feel like it's believable and we feel present with the pacing of the movie. We still feel like we're immersed.
It's like
So it's
yeah.
like, in that case, it's very stylish. It's very camera work, very formalistic, but then it's also like naturalistic, I guess.
Mhm.
I
Like
don't know.
going off of what you guys were talking about the camera movements, I feel like the fact that like at some points I felt like there were handheld shots. I might be, but like yeah, I felt like, and that just like it takes me back to when we were like studying perspective, and it just like and also like the use of like long shots when they're inside the bank and like they're having conversations with each other. It just felt like with the whole like handheld and like there was some certain use of like a camera like angle. I feel like it wasn't like a very high or like it's just sort of like a low angle. It just like made me feel like I was present inside the room, which like
Oh yeah, the
is
angles were
yeah,
all
it's
over
a
the place
and it
for
was
high
just
and
like
low.
yeah, and it just felt like okay, yeah, this seems very real to me. Like realism is like when I was like like the whole perspective just like felt like as an audience I was in the room, and I think that's what like makes it more real, I guess. Like it was like how it would put us into a situation when it actually happened, like the whole like because it's based on a real incident. I feel like it did good, like in that sense. I got a really good gist of what was going on.
It's also definitely okay, I know I'm literally quoting the lecture, but like form quite literally enhances the content.
Oh
Like
no,
how it
absolutely.
should
Yeah.
I
like
don't think
how the
you're gonna
camera and
get
editing
penalized
should
for
be
stating a definition that's correct.
I'm so proud of myself. But I kind of also want to shift over to like because we've been talking a lot of realism,
Mhm.
yay. But I also want to talk about the naturalism, and it feels a little bit tricky to talk about it because like how do you know whether or not it was fabricated? And I feel like naturalism probably comes out the most in performance, at least how I see it
Yeah,
a lot of the
I
time.
believe, yeah, I agree with that.
Because like at least like I'm a theater kid, unfortunately. I was popular in high school. And so most of the time when thank you, Jack.
Holy shit, that was fun.
I'm just
Hey,
now
That was
realism is
realizing.
really
good.
fun.
Just now realizing. Sorry, that just hit me late as someone who got out.
Mhm. You're acting like theater's a trap. It is. So continuing. So I have been a stage manager and I have been an actor before, and I've been an assistant director. And the main thing about directing that you have to be aware of is most of the time when a director, especially for musicals and like those kinds of productions, when you have a bigger cast, the director mainly goes to this goes through the specifics with the principals or the leads. And a little they also do it with the supporting cast, but most of the time they focus of here's your objective, here's how exactly you're going to do it, here's where you're going to move, and this is how you will move. That's how they would be for like the main principles, right? But you can see that the strength of the movie also comes from the people, the unnamed people, the crowds surrounding the bank, the unnamed policeman, that one sniper who looked like he was having a little too much fun.
Yeah, he was just like, hey,
Yeah.
No, he was ready. Like he was like, oh my god, all that training and
put me in, coach. Come on, let's go, let's go,
Well,
let's go, let's
actually,
go.
if we think about it, most of the policemen were very trigger happy. You had
Oh no,
Yeah,
multiple
no, I
absolutely.
think
scenes in the
And I think that's the sorry.
sorry, you go.
multiple scenes in the film where they literally yelled at them, "Put your guns away! Put your
Yeah.
guns away!"
Because the thing is, the police force, they aren't necessarily trained purely for like de-escalation in any sense. It means they're simply stop the threat at any
And
cost.
and you know,
And
I
the
think
easiest
what's
way to
funny?
stop something is by stopping it.
I
You know
think
what's funny about it though?
sorry, you go, yeah.
Both Moretti and Sonia, even though one of them was a robber and one is a police chief, they both started yelling at the police officers to freaking
Yeah.
stop, which I thought was really funny because it's like the police chief and the robber have more in common than the police chief between his own armed force.
And even like the
Why they
mob
moving
who seems to be
closer?
on Sunny's side, like
Yeah.
It's
you can tell
very
that like they're allies but not
Mhm.
friends.
it's very absurdist in a way. I guess.
It's like
I feel
Back
this
to
is
Die Hard.
exactly how you'd
like,
expect a mob to act. And
Mhm.
my favorite part of that is probably like this is just intuition, but the director probably went to the mob, said, act like a mob. You're supporting this guy. This guy's the good guy. This guy's the bad guy. And that was it. And the rest of it was in the performance of those actors. And even if like, so a lot of the times when I watch a movie, sometimes I just shift my focus to a background character and seeing what they're doing, because in the end, it's the background characters that gives life to a movie and to a production, to any form of media. It is no form of media is anything without that support.
and I think you can also say that a background characters can also break a movie when you think about it. Okay, back to the putting the guns away. I think the most in taking stuff from the actual story to and thinking about the plot of the film, biggest shift for me isn't when you find out about like his second wife. For me, it's when Al Pacino, Sonny, realizes that he's the one with the power. Because that
Yeah.
completely shifts the dynamic of the story.
The part where he's
And
talking-
I searched up in with the real guy John Wachowski. So much of the story is true. And he did ask for a list of his demands, including having his wife be released from a hospital. And at the time, he was divorced from his first wife, which I was.
Thing?
I think there's where naturalism, formalism, and realism really come to play, is when you see what they kept from the original story and what they didn't. So one of the key differences is that he was already divorced. So I think it makes it more interesting if he's not. So you keep that. So you change that for the movie. Now the single biggest difference I noticed was in the actual heist. It was not like $5,000. It was $213,000.
Which is like $1 million by today.
Yeah, no, so it's like, why would, I was like, at first, why would you make the movie
a comedy.
why would you make a movie lower stakes?
I think it's
But-
like to supply
it does
the absurdity.
However,
No,
it does the exact opposite when you think about it, because instead of
Yeah.
making it about instead of it being about getting money just for the sex exchange part, or it becomes that instead of also becoming rich. The goal of the
Yeah.
actual operation was for to get a birthday present for his wife for the sex exchange operation. However, they also would have become rich. Here in this story, you're more invested into Al Pacino's character because it's just enough money for that. Which I think
And
is
it's
a really
also,
cool change.
it could also like help him build of like, how much do you have to lose? Like should he like let himself, like should he like surrender to the cops?
Oh
Or
yeah,
what-
he has.
I think it's really interesting to see that the whole like you mentioned before, the whole dynamic of the film changes when he goes from being desperate in a failed robbery to getting the entire crowd on his side,
Getting some
inciting
pizzas
riots.
in there.
Yeah, he turns it around completely, which I
everybody had,
think
like, a-
completely changes the stakes.
Like, I think like funny thing of all that was just like everybody had like just a can of Tab with them, which was funny to me because they don't really sell it anymore. But also just like they went out of the way to, at the very least, make sure that if not that everyone was comfortable, that everyone was freaking out at least a little bit less.
Also,
Yeah.
it was just like when you guys were talking, when Ruth mentioned the background actors, I was just thinking about my like thoughts when I was watching that. It was when a bunch of people like come out to like support Sonny, and I remember being like, this seems so real. This is like, it seems like some sort of like footage from like a news
It's
a
very
telecast or something.
1970s America.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Like it was just like it's like it was something that I would have seen on TV. like
Mhm.
as a like a live footage going on. And I was like, that was a pretty good job. And also, it was just talking about like how like realism and like how it puts us in that perspective. I was also thinking about the hostages like throughout the like at many points. It was basically because like
Yeah.
it puts us like in this weird place where you see the hostages like being like fun and like interacting with Sonny. Like there was a point where a bunch of girls were like playing with his gun.
I
I
can
was like,
definitely see. I know
Yeah.
it's weird.
Which
Yeah,
can we
and
just know that feels like one of
There's
the few times in this class where a gun is not a penis metaphor.
well,
No, I
well, it's
personally think it is a
it's
penis metaphor because it represents. Okay,
but
No,
like
but
it's
We
wait,
have this.
it's
I
In,
like
I'm
Stockholm.
gonna
how
we
now
have
no,
this.
I'm gonna write
I like
a,
how
a paragraph just arguing
there's
you forever.
always a penis metaphor.
No.
Why is
I
it
like
always
how
No, no,
like
no.
they
Guys,
were
I was gonna say I'm
they
gonna look at every movie we watch with a gun and explain how they're all dicks, or just write on essay.
Sorry, Tanvi, I'm
No.
sorry. What did you say?
no. I was just like thinking about how even if they were like being held hostages, they end up being like bonded with each other. Like at the end, I remember like it was so sad when she gives Sal the rosary, and then like 2 seconds later he's shot. But like
Yeah.
the
No,
fact that
that
they
broke
actually
me.
like
um,
cared
do
about
you
each other
guys
because it
I'm,
was like a weird situation because
I'm
they were
think,
all just. Mhm.
sorry, or Georgie, you can go first, and then I'll
do you
talk
guys
about
remember when Sylvia was she was out in the street and what's his name Moretti,
Mhm.
Detective Moretti tried to get her to
Yeah.
be released, and
Yeah,
then
and
she
she
was
was
like,
like,
well,
"My
No,
girls
no,
are in there.
I'm
My
going back
girls
to
are in
my
school.
there."
girls are in there.
Like my girls are in
Like,
there.
Stockholm
there's no
It's
way she
Stockholm
was gonna leave
syndrome.
them. Mhm.
I
It
can
is
I
definitely.
wouldn't
definitely
even. It is Stockholm syndrome, but at the same time, I feel like um, isn't it like a bit like the time period to
Well,
like a bit less of it? I feel like they saw what Sonny was going through. Like even
it's
when he entered the bank, he was just
well,
like terrified.
the thing with Sonny is he went from being a sloppy robber to a people's hero,
Mhm.
essentially,
Exactly. I
because
feel
like
like
he
crazy.
was so real
yeah.
with the whole like, do you have
He
any
turned
idea
into
how
a
much it is to get a
vigilante.
job?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And like it was like more than Stockholm syndrome, like which I think stems out of fear. I feel like this one was more like them understanding what he's doing, and like
Actually,
he okay, go ahead.
not to go all psychology student on you.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Here we go. Here we go. Here we
common
go.
misconception about Stockholm
I'm the
syndrome is
psychology
that
student
you
here.
like fall
Okay,
in
let's
love.
not go too far down the Stockholm.
I know, but like, is that you fall in love with your captor, which isn't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily true because the origins of Stockholm syndrome comes from, guess where? Stockholm, Sweden, I think.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's basically, it's not like when you fall in love, but when you gain that sympathy and you gain that kindness.
Mm.
It comes from this exact sort of scenario. Robbers
Yeah.
trapping these innocent people in a bank, and then the people in the bank find out about their stories and they refuse to testify against them after being in there for like 20 days with those robbers. So sorry. I'm
Yeah.
gonna step out again.
It really it makes you
You're
think
right.
the things that film allows you to do that you can't do in reality, even though this is based off a real story, is like, oh, you can play with the idea of writing lines for hostages. Like that's such a weird thing, because like
Yeah.
this film definitely had
Mhm.
influence on oh, this is the second time I've thought of a Spike Lee film, Inside Man,
Mhm.
with Denzel Washington, where you
Denzel.
see, huh?
Denzel. We've been saying it wrong for the past years. Denzel.
Is it actually Denzel?
Yeah, I was livid.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Mhm.
In that film, which also has a really interesting robber with an interesting motivation, that in some ways, like the Denzel's the detective and sides with the robber, but also in that movie, like the robber who's holding the hostages, like he tries to be a really nice guy in some parts. He gets some food, he tells like kid to stop playing a violent video game despite the fact that he's wrong. And then you also have like you get to see in Die Hard John McClane's wife really shine as a hostage. I don't know. It's that's another thing, like blurring the lines of reality and what you can do with realism and formalism of like bringing life to something that would otherwise in every scenario in real life seem horrible.
But like it's also like in reality, it's also like not everything's horrible 24/7, 365, and not everything's exciting 24/7, 365 either.
Sometimes it's the most disappointing robbery
Bro,
you've
no,
ever
you
seen.
ever seen grass? That shit goes crazy.
No,
think-
no,
In the tall
paint
grass?
fucking rocks.
I
Paint
think-
fucking rocks.
I think it's pretty cool how in the film you see a nice contrast between humorous moments and moments of tension
And,
and moments of exposition.
Especially, oh my god, the dialogue
Mm.
gets me
Yeah.
every single time. And like I think the writing of the dialogue, the script itself was realism, but the performance was naturalism.
Al Pacino, too good.
Mm.
Made up a little
Scarf-
bit.
This was natural.
I first saw Al
Yeah,
Pacino
I
in
can
Scarface.
understand
Oh,
that.
who didn't see him in Scarf? Who didn't see him first in Scarf?
Bro, it's crazy that this is only like his third or fourth best film
Yeah.
of the 70s. Goated decade for
Mm.
film.
But
With
I
our
was also thinking another super random but such a real thing was how when they went into the bank, there were three people, and one of them just like chickened out and left. He was like, "Sorry, can't do it."
Oh
And he was
yeah,
like,
I completely forgot about that.
yeah, like this was
Yeah.
like so real. Like I was like,
Yeah,
oh shit, like
that's a
if
great
me,
bit,
if I was trying to rob a bank and like if we were put in that
It's a-
position, that'd be like they all looked like they were like literally amateurs and they were not trying
Yeah.
to hide it.
it's like a great
Except for
bit of
Sal,
supernaturalism.
I think, yeah, like except for Sal, no one had their shit together. Like Sonny
Sal
felt like
did not have
And,
his
and
shit
even
together.
and
I
Sal was
disagree.
underage. Sal was
Yeah.
like, he was on the edge.
Sal was an effective robber, but not an effective person.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's had so much demons in the back of his mind, he's barely held together,
Also,
which makes him the
I-
perfect robber.
I was like, I was a little confused because like I was like, there's no way that they were actually war veterans. That ties into the story too well. But no,
Surprise.
Al Pacino's character actually was. I thought that was crazy.
And Sonny, on the other hand, was very humanitarian, which made him too lenient in some cases, you could even say.
Yeah. I found out about this film through a show and I knew what was gonna happen. Like I knew that he was like I knew why he was robbing the bank and I took that like I feel like that took away my excitement. Like I'm sure like at some
I'm
point
so sorry. That
yeah.
would make
Like I knew like he was like getting money for a sex change operation for his lover, but then it just I feel like I should have like watched like it wasn't even my fault. I just watched
out
the
of a
show.
1970s movie. That's probably the most unexpected plot or
Yeah.
hardest to predict plot twist
I
ever.
think it's an insane plot, and what's even more insane is that it happened in real
and
life.
the reason that it's so insane, no, I think it's the opposite way around, Georgie. I think the
Oh.
reason that it here, how do I phrase this right without saying the wrong thing? Okay. This is a brain teaser.
The reason it can be this insane is because real life is you can't make it up.
It can
real
only
life
be
like that.
this insane because it really happened. That's what
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get you. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Some things are too wild for reality, and then some things are just enough where it's like, okay, there's no way this happened, but that's
Yeah.
the only way it's feasible.
Bro, you see the Tetris movie? Anyone like that?
There
That's
was a Tetris movie?
It's so cool. It's so
Oh
cool.
yeah. I
4
used
minutes,
to
everybody,
see
focus up.
is it the one on Apple?
Yeah, with
Yeah, it's
Cameron
on Apple
Egerton.
TV. It's about smuggling the game out of fucking Russia. It's this like Cold War thriller. That's a movie that's everything that happens is basically real, and it's only in like it's about the making of the game. It's the first movie about a game designer, so I'm super biased to it. But there's also really cool edits. But no,
No, listen, the
it's a
moment you get
true
a From
story
Software movie,
that
you're
is
good.
like all the twists and turns are like you can't rate it because it's just it's something that could have only happened in reality. Please
Yeah.
go watch it. Nobody's seen it. It's so cool.
But that's
But,
absolutely something we're gonna have to discuss.
To wrap all this stuff up, how do you guys think all these elements tie into the ending of the film and the relationship between the hostages and Al
So,
Pacino
I think he
or
was just
Sonny?
I don't think they actually like went to an airport and all that shit. I think that was definitely dramatized, but I think it was worth it because it made it way more impactful when you get
Yeah.
so close to the finish line.
Yeah. Like at
And
like
bro,
in
when she
at this
gives him the cross, that shit
Yep.
killed me. Oh my god.
that was
That
very
hurt.
sad.
That
And like
hurt.
I knew that was gonna happen because as soon as like they were in the car and the guy kept on being like, you need to put your gun up, like don't forget that, I knew there was something bad that was about to
Yeah,
happen.
there's
He
constantly
was
a
being
looming
set up
out
the whole time.
element.
Hmm.
Like I just
Like,
From the
we're gonna
moment
take
from the
care of
moment the
we're
FBI
gonna take
guys
care of Sal.
started
No.
talking to Sonny.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Oh,
How they
sorry, I
said that
talked
we're gonna
over.
take care of
The
Sal.
FBI guy. Oh,
Yeah.
But
He
it's
just seems
also
like-
interesting that there's not a like no one in a doubt in like in our mind this whole time has like thought about siding against Sunny. That's a
Mhm.
pretty cool thing to be able to do with a film.
Also, we don't really know exactly what happened to Sonny in his past life. We just know glimpses from the people around him, but we don't know the full
He
story.
was I can
So
But
we
like even without like a
Yeah.
flashback or a big grand gesture, I just felt so much sympathy already for him. Like
It's true, but what I'm saying is a lot of people say he is an asshole, and we don't really see what exactly he did, but we get to see the impact of his actions on these people's emotions and relationships with them.
I think he's just a person who is trying to put way too much on himself, and it kind of leads to his downfall a little bit. As I think that's what made him quote unquote an asshole. But yeah, no, he. How do I wrap this up? What do I do?
You just do.
I can't think-
Attica!
Yeah, no, I thought of that, but I thought it was stupid.
wait, can
Nah,
you
we can-
edit in Dog Days Are Over, like as like the credit scene? Run
Yes,
fast for your
I will.
life.
Wait, why
Uh,
why that?
Yeah.
Okay, but
Well,
goodbye.
Because of the title of the song.
It's not what we're gonna do.
Title of
We
the
have to say
song.
goodbye.
Dog days are over, man.
We should say
okay.
goodbye.
Yep. And that's a wrap
Yeah.
on our episode for this week.
I like that. I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
Thank you
That's
so
good.
much.
We'll
See
see
you
you all
guys.
next week. And until then,
Mhm.
who knows? Maybe we'll have cereal. Probably not, though. Have a good night, all.